Picture this. A self-made billionaire wakes up one morning and does something that would make most traditional financial advisors cringe. He takes out a massive loan. He isn't doing it because he is broke. He isn't doing it because he is in trouble. He is doing it to become even richer. Meanwhile, the average person hears the word debt and immediately thinks of one thing: danger. We have been taught our whole lives that debt is the enemy. We are told to cut up the credit cards, pay off the mortgage, and live debt-free. And for the average consumer, that is good advice. But what if that is only half the story? What if the wealthiest people in the world know something about debt that schools never teach? This is the debt paradox. In the middle class, debt is a chain. In the 1%, debt is a key. Today, we are going to break down exactly how the rich use loans to multiply wealth, while everyone else uses loans to destroy it. We are going to cover the buy, borrow, die strategy that legally avoids millions in taxes, the inflation arbitrage that makes debt cheaper by the day, and how to stop acting like a borrower and start acting like a bank. Let's start with a story about two investors. Let's call them Alex and Brianna. Both start the year with $30 million in investments. Both have had a great run, and both owe $3 million in taxes on their gains. Here is where their paths split. Alex does what we are all taught to do. He sells $3 million of his investments. He takes the cash, pays the tax man, and moves on. Problem solved, right? He is responsible. He has no debt. But Brianna, she does something completely different. Brianna doesn't sell a single stock. Instead, she walks into a bank and gets a $3 million loan using her $30 million portfolio as collateral. She pays her taxes with the bank's money. Now, look at the difference. Alex's portfolio is now down to $27 million. He killed the golden goose to pay the bill. His compounding power has been permanently reduced. Brianna's portfolio is still sitting at $30 million. It is untouched. It is still growing. It is still compounding. If the market goes up 10% next year, Brianna makes $3 million. Alex only makes $2.7 million. Brianna is mathematically pulling ahead simply because she refused to sell. But wait, you say, she has to pay interest on that loan. Yes, she does. But here is the secret the wealthy understand. The cost of debt is often lower than the cost of taxes and the power of growth. If she is paying 4% interest on the loan, but her assets are growing at 8% or 10%, she is making a profit on the bank's money. This is called positive arbitrage, and it gets better. This leads us to the first major mechanism of the debt paradox, the inflation hedge. Most people assume inflation is bad. It makes groceries expensive. It makes gas expensive. But if you have fixed-rate debt, inflation is your best friend. Imagine you borrow money at 5%. That cost is locked in forever. But as inflation rises, the value of the dollar falls. The dollars you use to pay back that loan 5 or 10 years from now are worth significantly less than the dollars you borrowed today. You are essentially repaying a loan with cheaper money. The wealthy use this principle constantly. It is a double-edged sword, of course. If you borrow to buy a car that loses value, inflation hurts you because the asset is dying while the debt remains. But if you borrow to buy an asset that rises with inflation, like real estate or a business, you win twice. The asset price goes up, and the real value of the debt goes down. This brings us to the most controversial strategy in the entire financial playbook. It's called buy, borrow, die. This strategy allows some of the richest people in America to access unlimited cash without ever paying income taxes on it. And the crazy part? It is completely legal. It is written right into the tax code. Here is the fundamental rule you need to memorize. Debt is not income. When you work a job, you get a paycheck. That is income. The IRS taxes it immediately. When you sell a stock for a profit, that is capital gains. The IRS taxes it. But when you borrow money, that is a liability. You have to pay it back. Therefore, the IRS does not tax it. So, here is the playbook. You acquire assets. You let them grow. When you need money to live, to buy a house, a car, or go on vacation, you do not sell the asset. You borrow against it. You get the cash flow you need tax-free. Your assets stay invested and continue to grow. And because the loan interest is often tax-deductible if structured correctly, like against a business or investment property, you are actually lowering your tax bill even further. But what about the die part? This is the final checkmate. When you pass away, your estate settles the debt. But under current tax law, your heirs receive the assets on a step-up in basis. This means the value of the assets is reset to the current market price. All that capital gains tax that built up over your lifetime? Wiped clean. The slate is clean. Your family inherits the empire, the debt is paid off with a fraction of the assets, and the cycle begins again. It is a system where debt isn't a burden. It is a shield against taxes. Now I know what you are thinking. I don't have $30 million, I can't do this. And that is the comfort trap talking. That is the voice in your head that wants you to stay an employee. While you might not get a $1 billion line of credit, the principles of good debt versus bad debt apply to everyone. Let's distinguish them right now. Bad debt is consumer debt. This is borrowing money to buy a liability. You use a credit card to buy clothes, a TV, or a vacation. The moment you buy it, the value drops. The debt stays. You are paying interest on something that is making you poorer. This is a wealth extraction machine. Good debt is asset debt. This is borrowing money to buy something that produces value. A rental property that generates cash flow. A business that creates profit. An education, if it's the right skill, that increases your earning power. The wealthy never use debt to consume, they use debt to produce. Let's look at a practical example. The wealth loop. Most people live in a linear line. Earn money, pay debt, die. The wealthy build loops. They take high-cost, non-deductible debt, like credit cards, and recycle it into low-cost, deductible, asset-backed debt. Imagine you have $10,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. That is bleeding you dry. The wealthy mindset doesn't just pay it off. They ask, how can I restructure this? Maybe they use equity in a property to pay off the card. Now the interest rate drops from 20% to 6%, but they don't stop there. They take the cash flow they just saved on interest and redirect it immediately into an investment, an index fund, or a side business. They stopped paying for their past and started funding their future. They turned a leak into a stream. This requires a massive psychological shift. Schools teach you to be an employee. They teach you to be risk-averse. They teach you that safety means having no obligations. But in an economy where money is being printed by the trillions, the Cantillon effect, cash is a liability. If you are sitting on cash in a savings account, earning 1% while inflation is running at 3%, you are losing money safely. You are slowly bleeding out. The person who uses a loan to buy a cash-flowing asset is taking a risk, yes. But they are actively hedging against the destruction of the currency. The biggest risk isn't taking on strategic debt. The biggest risk is doing nothing. The wealthy understand that leverage is a tool. Think of it like a power saw. If you don't know how to use it, you will cut your hand off. That is what happens when people use credit cards to buy luxury cars they can't afford. But if you know how to use it, you can build a house in a fraction of the time it would take with a handsaw. So, how do you start applying the debt paradox today? Step 1. Stop fearing debt. Start respecting it. Change your vocabulary. Don't ask, how do I get out of debt? Ask, how do I get out of bad debt and into good debt? Eliminate consumer debt ruthlessly using the avalanche or snowball method, not because debt is evil, but because that specific debt is inefficient. Step 2. Build collateral. You cannot borrow against nothing. The reason the 1% can access cheap loans is that they own things. Your priority shouldn't be saving money to let it sit. It should be accumulating assets, stocks, real estate, intellectual property. These are the keys that unlock the banking system's VIP room. Step 3. Asset appreciation. Debt cost. Before you take out a loan for anything, run the math. Does the asset generate more cash flow or appreciation than the debt costs? If you buy a rental property with a 6% mortgage, does it yield 8% or 10%? If the answer is yes, the debt is free. In fact, the debt is profitable. If the answer is no, it's a liability. Step 4. Audit your flow. Are you borrowing to look rich or borrowing to get rich? The wealthy drive cars owned by their businesses, paid for with pre-tax dollars. The middle class drives cars owned by themselves, paid for with after-tax dollars and high-interest loans. Same car, completely different financial impact. The system is designed to keep you in the dark. It wants you to be a profitable debtor, someone who pays 20% interest on credit cards, not a strategic borrower. Banks make money when you make mistakes. They lose money, or make very little, when you use the system the way they do. The debt paradox is simply this. The more you try to avoid the game of finance, the more likely you are to lose it. The rich don't escape debt. They master it. They use it to control assets they couldn't otherwise touch, to preserve capital that is already working for them, and to hedge against the slow, silent theft of inflation. This isn't about being greedy. It is about survival in a system that punishes savers and rewards owners. You have a choice. You can keep playing by the rules you were taught in school, rules designed to make you a good employee. Or you can start learning the rules of the 1%, rules designed to make you an owner. Don't just pay your bills. Engineer your flow. Stop letting your fear of debt keep you from understanding its power. If this opened your eyes to how differently money works on the other side, you need to keep going. Understanding debt is just the first domino. We are going to keep breaking down the hidden systems, the legal cheat codes, and the psychology that separates the wealthy from the rest. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Because the game is rigged, but the rules are written down. You just have to learn how to read them. I'll see you in the next one.